And good morning, everyone. I'm speaking with you from the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people and the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. I'm joined today by Brendan Ralphs, Director of Response with Emergency Management BC, Armel Castellan with Environment Canada, Janelle State and Paula Cousins with the Ministry of Transportation. Over the weekend, BC experienced an atmospheric river event caused by heavy rain and localized flooding. Multiple rain-induced incidents have been occurring in the southwest and central regions of the province. The situation is dynamic. The province has been in continual contact with local governments and working to support those affected. Overnight, around 80 to 100 vehicles became trapped between landslides on Highway 7 near Agassiz. Heavy search and rescue teams have been deployed to assist, and we are looking at the possibility of air rescue if needed. High winds may challenge these efforts. In addition, flooding has led to evacuation alerts and orders in the Fraser Valley, as well as significant impacts to the wastewater treatment plant in Merritt. Merritt residents cannot use any water, including running faucets or flushing toilets, until further notice. Close to 2,000 people have already been evacuated from Merritt, and if required, the entire community may have to be evacuated. We are setting up supports in Kelowna and Kamloops. Before passing to staff for updates, let me finish today by thanking local governments for their response and the crews from the Ministry of Transportation, Search and Rescue, police and firefighters who are out there on the front lines supporting those evacuees and those who are trapped on Highway 7. Lastly, to everyone dealing with this challenging incident, everyone keep working together, taking care, and stay safe. Thank you. And at this time, I'll pass it over to Brendan Ralphs with Emergency Management BC.
And actually, we're going to go directly to Armel Castellan of Environment Canada. My apologies.
Hello, thank you very much for having me on this call. My name is Armel. I'm a warning preparedness meteorologist with Environment Canada, and the situation that we're seeing over the last couple days has been very wet. In addition to that, the antecedent conditions, so the last 2 months have seen also 200% thereof of normal precipitation. So we're dealing with very wet conditions leading up to this very potent and strong atmospheric river that has tapped into subtropical moisture. We have seen over 150 millimeters in many locations across the south coast, including the Island, Sunshine Coast, and also spilling into the southwest interior, as was just mentioned. We are expecting the continued rain today through much of the day, ending in the afternoon or tapering off as the system moves south. Behind that is a very sharp cold front. Winds 70 gusting to 90 from the northwest close to the Salish Sea are expected, and into the Fraser Valley will be more of a westerly direction, also reaching up to 90 kilometers an hour in the gusts. So potential power outages likely with this secondary pulse into the afternoon and early evening, and also lasting right into the southwest interior overnight. We also have winter storm conditions in the southwest interior on some of the highway passes like Rogers Pass. So a lot of weather right across the south half of British Columbia.
Now we'll turn it over to Ministry of Transportation. We have Janelle State. Please go ahead, Janelle.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. So in the South Coast, we've experienced fairly significant road conditions over the last 24 hours. Specifically, I'll start in the Fraser Valley area. We have Highway 1, a number of different closures. We're just looking at a closure right now at the Whatcom area. The water is just rising so quickly, and it's challenging the capacity of our culverts. Adjacent to our roads, water just continues to rise. We're also seeing on Highway 7, we have 2 debris activities that are actually underway. We have equipment staged on both sides of those, ready to embark into action when the debris slides slow down. However, at this point, they are still active. We also on Highway 3 have 2 debris activities underway that again, we have equipment staged on either side and ready to get into action once the debris torrent slowed down. As we continue to monitor the activity, our teams have been out throughout the night. Our maintenance contractors have been out throughout the night, We've deployed additional equipment. We've actually looked at our construction sites and taken some equipment there to move them over. Our focus right now is safety. The water is continuing to move over the highway and we're still seeing movement. So first and foremost, the safety of folks that are traveling on the road, as well as our contractors that are working. We have our geotechnical engineers who have been deployed through various sites throughout the Lower Mainland, the Fraser Valley, into the Coquihalla. We also have some rock falls that were just reported through Highway 1 on the Fraser Canyon. A lot of activity right now, but we certainly have all hands on deck ready to mobilize when our geotechnical engineers have given us the green light to do that. We do have 3 different stretches of our highways in the Lower Mainland, Highway 7, Highway 5, and Highway 3, where we do have some individuals that are trapped between 2 slides. Those folks are safe. We have been able to have some contact with those folks. So our priority right now is to determine how we can get those folks out and working very, very closely with the MDC on that front. On the island, we also have a few closures there. We have Highway 14 that's closed just east of the Souk area. And we also have a closure on Highway 1 on the Malahat, as well as Highway 1 in the Duncan area southbound. Lots of closures on our side roads, just so much water and an inability to actually be able to manage the high precipitation that's come over these 24-hour periods. But as I say, our focus right now is safety, making sure that our people traveling on the roads are safe, as well as our contractors who are going to start getting their equipment working to be able to get these roads reopened as soon as we can in a safe way. But we continue to expect challenging conditions over the morning and into the afternoon. So I would say one thing is folks don't need to be out on the road, do stay home, because it is very tricky and challenging conditions out there right now, and a bit unpredictable as well. Thank you.
We stay with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, and we'll hand it now over to Paula Cousins, who is an Interior representative. Please go ahead, Paula. Paula, could you please take yourself off mute? Monday morning. You're not yet audible.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Paula. Thank you so much. Please proceed with your update.
Further to Janelle's update, Ministry and maintenance contractor staff worked in the Interior work throughout the night, dealing with these extreme flood events across the region. Safety is our highest priority, and we'll continue to be fully deployed in assessing the impacts to our infrastructure as we work through this event. I'll speak specifically to the Highway 5 Coquihalla corridor, Hope and Merritt, due to active mudslides and debris flows. The corridor's received approximately 200 millimeters of rain and continues to experience heavy precipitation. Our experts are going to fly the corridor as soon as we're able to get up there, but we do have early reports that there is some damage along the corridor, although it's too soon to know the full extent of that damage, which is going to determine the length of closure. Safety is our highest priority, and we'll continue to keep the public updated. We're also expecting the potential for some snow on the corridor this afternoon, which will add to our challenges. Highway 1 is closed west of Revelstoke at Three Valley Gap due to rocks and debris coming down off of the bluffs. It's currently being assessed by our engineers, and we will reopen as soon as it's safe to do so. In the meantime, the Needles and Galena Bay ferries are running 24 hours to support that closure. And we have a closure at Highway 3 at Princeton due to about 7 to 10 inches of water on the road. So once that water recedes, we will reassess the damage and try to get that corridor open as quickly as possible. And I'll just close again by encouraging motorists to avoid interior highways if possible today, but if you must travel, be prepared, watch for pooling water, travel with a full tank of gas, food, water, blankets, charge cell phones, and of course, continue to monitor Drive BC as your best source of ongoing updates.
Thank you very much, Paula. That concludes our operational updates. A reminder to media on the line, please press *1 to enter the queue. You will be limited to 1 question and 1 follow-up. Our first question today goes to Richard Zussman, Global News.
Minister Farnworth, can you explain to us why you weren't out yesterday, or someone else from the province was out yesterday to prepare people for decisions they may have to make around this? And do we have any sense yet about the extent of damage to personal property? I know we spoke a lot here about the roads. Is there any sense of how many homes or properties are flooded out at this point?
Travel advisories and high stream warning advisories have been issued by the appropriate ministries over the weekend. At the same time, in terms of the bulk of the rainfall coming over this weekend, crews were out both at the local level and at the provincial level as the situations arose in local areas. At the same time, in terms of an assessment of any potential damage or homes impacted, that's now that it's daylight. In terms of the highways, we have aircraft out that will be able to deal with that, conditions permitting. Local governments assess the situation in their local communities in terms of where the flooding has been at. We know in the case of the streams that they are expected to continue to rise for at least the next 4 to 6 hours and stay high for at least the next 24 hours.
Richard, do you have a follow-up?
I do. There's a picture, and I think the last speaker sort of spoke to this on the Coquihalla, but there's a picture on social media circulating now about what looks like an entire part of the Coquihalla washed out. And I'm just wondering if there's any sense of how significant this is. This is at the Othello Road exit. If there's an awareness about this, and when we're looking at a full washout like this, could this mean we're talking about, days of the road being closed? Can you give people a sense about how long this closure may be underway if these roads are completely and totally destroyed?
As at this particular time, we're not able to give an update in terms of how long different highways will be out of commission for. The expectation is that Highway 1 will be open by 5 this evening, given the current understanding of the conditions. As was reported earlier, the geotechnical people are out to get an understanding of what has actually happened on the highways, and once they've done that work, then we will have a much stronger idea of the damage that's involved and the length of time that it may take to fix it, and obviously then how long a particular stretch of road or a highway is out of commission.
For the next question, we go to Grace Kennedy, Fraser Valley Current.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. One of the things that I wanted to ask about is, at what point should people on the Sumas Prairie and in Huntington be seriously worried about flooding from the Nooksack River down in the States?
All of those river conditions are monitored, and so the local government will be observing what's taking place and monitoring, and then taking the appropriate action, whether it is to give an evacuation alert, for example, and then subsequent to that you would obviously go to an evacuation order. What's critical right now obviously is the level of rainfall that's still coming through, and then how quickly the rivers are rising. But I can tell you that those are being monitored, and if a situation is required to move to a local state of emergency or an evacuation order, then that will obviously be put in place.
Grace, do you have a follow-up?
I do, yeah, and this is kind of going a bit off of Richard's assessment, but, Sumas officials began, warning residents of a large flood on Saturday and then began sandbagging yesterday afternoon. So why didn't residents get a similar warning in the Fraser Valley? I know you said you were out there and working, but why wasn't there that similar communication with the residents here?
At the local level, they're observing the conditions in the local area. They're making the decisions that impact that particular community and taking the appropriate action. So obviously in the case of sandbagging, that's what's required at this particular point. Then they monitor, and if they need to go to say a local evacuation alert, they will do that. And then after that, depending on what's happening and how the conditions are changing, they will move to a local evacuation order.
Next question comes from Justine Hunter, Globe and Mail.
Thank you. I'm wondering, Minister, if you can give me an idea of how many communities are operating these local emergency response programs right now, and is there at some point, given the number and scale of this, do you go to some kind of central incident command system so that there's some coordination? This just seems so widespread.
We don't. Every community is required to have a local emergency plan and deal with local emergency events. And they are activated based on the assessment of what is happening in their local community. So, for example, we've seen in many communities they were out unblocking culverts and drainage areas to deal with potential flooding. Other communities that know that they have rivers or streams that may be subject to high stream flow, and high stream flow warnings have been out, will be monitoring that and responding accordingly to the needs on their local community. Then at other communities, for example, may require provincial assistance. They will ask for that. That is there. So in the case of Merritt, there is assistance available in terms of helping to ensure that there is a space for evacuees as is required. So all of those things are working together and coordinated.
And do you have a follow-up, Justine?
Yeah, but also if Minister, you can get some kind of number, the number of communities currently on some kind of emergency footing right now, that would be helpful. But I'm also wondering, this is an annual event that we get some flooding around the province, but can you give me any sense of scale historically of the last time we've seen something where so many communities, so many highways washed out, just that historic scale, please?
Well, we'll have more on that as the day unfolds and we have a better understanding of the scope of flooding in communities. But what I can tell you is this morning I know that being told this is a significant storm. It ranks up there. Is it the largest? We don't know yet. But certainly in the days to come, we will be able to have a much better assessment in terms of damage and the scale of storm.
Next question goes to Lisa Eusda, City News. Lisa, please go ahead.
Hi, Minister. Just with your response to Richard and some other people about, and even Justine, regarding the coordination provincially, and as was referenced earlier, that some people in the States got notice on Saturday to say, hey, prepare, get your sandbags out, get bags ready to go just in case. And it doesn't seem to people living in those communities that they received the same sort of response or alert in Canada or in BC. And so I'm just wondering, is there more that can be done? Like, this is the third type of event that we've heard that people didn't get that kind of warning they felt that they needed. Is there something being dropped, or are people expecting too much?
Whenever a weather event such as this happens, and we know we get heavy rains in the winter, particularly here on the coast, at the local level where they're familiar with the streets and the stream flows and the conditions and the roads that are likely to flood, they are out there doing the work that needs to be done, and that's exactly what has to happen. So they're identifying those likely flooding spots and dealing with them right from the get-go. Then, as the conditions change and we see that streams are rising and obviously being monitored by Environment Canada, for example, and the stream warnings are in place and sandbagging takes place, then the decision is made to potentially go to a local state of alert, an evacuation alert, and then to an evacuation order. And that's the right way and the appropriate way to deal with these kinds of situations, because the experts in that local area know where the problem spots are.
Lisa, do you have a follow-up?
Well, with there being 80 to 100 vehicles stuck with, we don't know yet how many people in there, but at least 80 to 100 people, it seems like something was missed. There was not an alert done. Like, how did there end up being 80 to 100 people stuck in their vehicles because of landslides in a number of places or flooding?
Landslides, as you know, are unpredictable, and they happen. What's important is that once they do, and as that we realize, and that there are, in this case, vehicles trapped, 80 to 100, search and rescue is called out right away. Canada search team, rescue search team, mobilized early this morning to do that. Obviously, safety is of critical importance, and so in this case, a contact I know has been made with many of the people and an understanding of their condition, and their first priority is to ensure they're safe. And so crews are out dealing with that as we speak.
Next question goes to Alana Kelly, Glacier Media.
Yes, thank you. Speaking specifically to BC Highway 7, where those people are trapped, I just spoke to a woman who says she's been there for 14 hours, doesn't have food, doesn't have water. So My question is, what is the province doing to support these people who are stuck there?
Right now, as I've said, search and rescue has been mobilized. They were mobilized early this morning. One of the challenges that they have been facing, obviously, is the weather and the ability to get into the area safely. That's currently being assessed, and they will be doing everything they can to ensure that they reach people who are trapped in their vehicles between those slides as quickly as possible, but also as safely as possible.
Alana, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, is there an expectation of when they can get through? And also, they're telling me that they're concerned about what they might face if they do get through. Is there a plan for where they will be going or what time they can expect to be out of there?
As I said, the search and rescue crews right now are assessing the situation based on the weather and are going to be doing everything they can to get people out of their vehicles and to safety. But the bottom line is it must be done safely. As you know, it's daylight now, and that work is underway. And when we have more information, we'll let you know.
Next question goes to Colton Davies, Radio NL.
Thanks for doing this. Maybe I missed it in the opening remarks. I heard a lot about Merritt, but I didn't hear any mention about Princeton. We've seen photo and video of 3 to 4 feet of water on some of the main roads through town, and that's obviously with the Tulameen River surging. So I'm just curious, what's the government's awareness of the situation on the ground in Princeton right now?
Yeah, no, we are aware of the situation on the ground in Princeton and other communities, and highway crews and contractors are out working to get these situations resolved and get transportation routes open as quickly and as safely as possible, and also doing an assessment of any damage that may have taken place.
Colton, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, thank you. Just going back to the Rosedale Highway between Hope and Agassiz. Obviously, the minister mentioned that these washouts can be very unpredictable, but it's a life-threatening situation. It would appear, at least for some of the people who are trapped. I'm just curious: should the Rosedale Highway have been closed earlier?
The decisions on when to close a highway are made at that local level in terms of what the situation is. As we said, that slides are unpredictable, but I can tell you that crews are out working to get roads cleared, to assess the safety and the damage, and at the same time, as I said, search and rescue have been out since this morning, early this morning, to get ready and assess the situation and to be able to go in and get people out who are trapped in their cars between those slides as quickly, but also as safely as possible.
Next question goes to Mia Gordon, the Weather Network.
Slides are unpredictable. Hi there. Thanks for taking this. I was actually just hoping to speak with Amal a little bit about, or see if you could answer this question about what is still to come. I know the rain potentially likely to ease up this afternoon, but then we're also talking about power outages with the incoming wind. So I was just wondering if we could get an update of how we're really not in the clear just yet and what is still to come with the system.
Thanks, Mia. We'll go straight to Armel.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thanks, Armel.
Yeah, I got you.
You were great. So exactly as you put it, we're not totally in the clear. Definitely the atmospheric river will end today as it moves south and into deeper into Washington State. That said, as that clearing happens, it's going to be coming with a big shot of wind. So from the northwest for areas close to Salish Sea and more of a westerly direction deeper into the Fraser Valley, so including Hope, and then into the southwest interior as well, a little bit later into the evening. But definitely a very windy day with wind warnings out for much of the south coast and into the interior. With gusts up to 90. So those are very strong winds that usually cause damage, cause breakages in tree branches and uprooting trees. So we fully expect to see more power outages as a result of the ensuing weather.
Mia, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just quickly on that topic as well. How does what we've seen over the last few days with all this heavy rainfall potentially play into those potential for power outages? Can we expect to see more drastic concerns because of how saturated everything is?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when we see a parade of storms, as we have essentially since mid-September, with really only a very few breaks, the ground saturation is very high. So the elevated conditions for things like landslides and debris flows, as well as you know, the forest health and the trees, and therefore the ability for them to topple over in winds that are sometimes even below criteria. So that's true as you come out of a drought like we did during the summer. And then it's also true as you get deeper into the active weather season here on the South Coast, and you're dealing with now many weeks. In fact, I was saying earlier that we are looking at well above 200% of normal for September and October. And then November has really picked up in earnest from that with, again, another atmospheric river. So we're seeing what has fallen in the last 24 to 36 hours as being equivalent to and surpassing some monthly November statistics for some locations, which is saying a lot considering November is our wettest month. So definitely adding a lot of exposed areas and making them extra vulnerable at this point.
Next question goes to Peter Mitham, Country Life.
Good morning. This is for the Minister. Speaking with the Agriculture Ministry this morning, they said Emergency Management BC is supporting communities with flood mitigation efforts. And so I'm hoping you can speak to any agricultural impacts on this. But I also recognize that you told Richard Zusman that you're still assessing the impact on private property. But any sense of how many farms, ranches are affected by this?
Not at this point. It's too early to tell. As we know, we've got the weather system moving through to be followed by high winds. We will have, and there will be aircraft out that will be able to do surveillance, conditions permitting, to get a better understanding in terms of the scope of any flooding or impact. And we will be, we'll know more over the next hours and the days ahead.
Peter, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, and then just again, for either the Minister or maybe Armel may be able to speak to this, but any sense of how this summer's wildfires or this wildfire season has set us up for some of the landslides and rockslides that we're seeing?
Obviously, that's always a concern, but what I can tell you is at this point, we have not noticed an impact with regards to additional slides from the weather that's come through. A lot of the focus or a lot of the damage has been on the coast, but obviously additional monitoring, and over the next few days, we will see if that changes.
Next question goes to Rob Buffum, CTV Vancouver Island.
Oh, thank you, Minister. I'm just wondering if you can give us a sense as to when the 3 spots on Vancouver Island highways that are closed will be opened. Is that 5 o'clock for Highway 14? I know you won't know exactly, but what's your estimate at this point?
I will ask Transportation and Highways if they have a late update. At this particular point in time, I don't have exact information in that regard.
Okay, does anybody...
For the highway on Vancouver Island, at this point, we're waiting on doing an assessment. We're looking at it. The challenge is the water is just so high and continues to travel across the highway. So until that weather system that Armel spoke to slows down, we're going to continue to see the volumes very high across the road. And we have, in some cases, a few feet of water traveling across the road. So safety is our #1 priority, and once the water recedes, we're able to undertake an assessment to see if there's any damage and then determine if we can reopen those roads to the traveling public.
Rob, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, this was Armel talked about winds following once this atmospheric river leaves the area, winds up to 90 kilometers an hour. Armel, in terms of Vancouver Island, in the southern part of it, what kind of winds are we looking at here? Is that the same sort of speed?
Going to Armel.
That's correct. We're looking at west winds of 70 gusting to 90 kilometers an hour developing throughout the day here, particularly along Juan de Fuca Strait for the very south of the island. So yeah, a windy westerly gusty wind until the early evening at least.
Next question goes to Janet Brown, CKNW. Janet, please go ahead.
Hello, Minister. Thanks for taking my call. I'm just curious. We are getting some reports into our newsroom that several vehicles have been washed into the water between those two slides on Highway 7, and that several people may indeed be missing. Do you have any information about this? What can you say about this, please?
I'm not able to, I have not heard that information, and we have nothing confirmed at this point about vehicles being washed in or people's or people missing. We have no confirmation of that at all at this point.
Do you have a follow-up, Janet?
Yes, I do. Thank you. So what is the way forward right now to get to these people who are sitting in their vehicles, who who don't have food or water or coffee or anything like that? What is the process now to get to them and rescue them? You talked about possible air support coming in, but other than that, what's the plan?
Search and rescue are out on those sites as we speak. They have been mobilized since very early this morning, determining what the situation is. They are the experts who will be able to determine what the best way is to reach the people who are stranded in their vehicles. As you know, it is very difficult weather. And so they will be doing an assessment, and they will determine the best way, the safest way, to be able to extricate people who are trapped between those slides. And they will be doing it as quickly but as safely as they can.
Next question, Binder Sajan, CTV.
Hi, Minister. Just following up on that, for the people who are stuck in their vehicles, who are wondering, how to get information, maybe dealing with, phones that aren't charging or able to be charged, running out of gas, how should they expect to get the information from the province in terms of where they are in the queue, or if someone is coming, with even supplies?
As I said, search and rescue are on location. This is the highest priority. They are doing everything they can. Obviously, they have to assess the situation given the instability that is in the area and the weather conditions in the area. But they are doing everything they can to make sure that they are able to reach people as quickly as possible and as safely as possible.
Binder, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, and so do you have a timeline or an expectation at this point in terms of when that could be complete?
The search and rescue people are incredible professionals who do an incredible job. They're experts in what they do. They will be doing it as quickly and as safely as they can, obviously having to assess and take into account the conditions that they're working in, but they will be doing everything they can in the way that they always do, and as I said, they'll do it as quickly and as safely as possible.
Thank you very much, everyone, to everyone on the line, everyone participating, and to Minister. That concludes today's operational update.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.